The 2026 Mizzou football schedule has been revealed, and it's looking like a second consecutive 5-0 start is a definite possibility to me.
You are Locked On Mizzou, your daily podcast on the Missouri Tigers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, all you true sons and daughters, I'm John Miller, your Mizzou mafioso and the central scrutinizer of Missouri Tigers football and basketball. And on today's program, I got to say, after a closer than you'd like victory over Alabama State last night, I think it's fair, among other things, to start questioning Missouri's basketball scheduling under Dennis Gates. Also, well, speaking of the schedule, like I said, 2026, an easier start, but man, 5 absolutely brutal games on the back end for the Tigers as well. So let's get into that schedule. But before I start, I do want to say quickly, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. And like I said, a 5-0 start for Missouri this past season. I got to say, you look at the schedule, and hey, let's bring it up here for those of you on YouTube. In fact, you look at this schedule for the Tigers, and these first 5 games pretty navigable. At Arkansas, home for Arkansas, Pine Bluff, your usual easy week 1 opener. Should we officially move that game to Thursday already? That's become the tradition here at Missouri, but as of now, that's looking like a Saturday football game. What do you want to bet it gets moved to Thursday once again? But Kansas, obviously week 2, you expect to beat the Jayhawks, even in Lawrence. I hate to say it. Same thing with Troy at home. At Mississippi State in week 4, Missouri has waxed Mississippi State the last couple of seasons for the most part. And Florida at home, obviously week 5. We don't know what the Gators are going to look like at this point. And really, let's be real. It's far too early to be making too many predictions at this point. The transfer portal hasn't even begun, number one. Obviously, the Gators have a new coach. What's going to happen with their quarterback, DJ Lagway? Is he going to stick around? And even if he does stick around, how much does he improve or not? So a million different variables here. But as far as SEC schedules go, just like 2025, I think this is about as navigable of a start as one could hope for. I will say this, you got 2 more games as well in the season. Speaking of new coaches, a couple in Fayetteville, of course, Missouri at Arkansas, a Halloween tilt, by the way, this season. Also against Kentucky at home with Mark Stoops moving on to, well, perhaps greener pastures. We shall see what happens for him. So obviously, let's be ultra generous here and assume that Missouri wins those 7 games that I just brought up, when really, in reality, only 2 of those games at most are actual shoe-ins. But hey, hypothetically, again, let's be nice to the Tigers here. Well, that still leaves you with 5 absolutely massive games. Home against Texas A&M, at Ole Miss, versus Texas, at Georgia, and versus Oklahoma. That is 4 teams. 4 of those 5 teams are currently in the college football playoff this season. And that 5th one, Texas, just barely missed. Some would argue they might be in the field if, well, a few things had happened. If Duke hadn't won the ACC, but also if the Horns hadn't played Ohio State in week 1 and maybe played Rice instead, as some have suggested, maybe they would be in the field. The point here is you've got 5 teams that are basically college football playoff worthy, and of course the Horns played in the inaugural 12-teamer last season in the semifinals against, yes, Ohio State. Now, the good news here, although that is quite the 5-game gauntlet, of course, Georgia is Georgia, especially in Athens. But the good news, 3 of those games are at home. Let's hope that closed-in, brand-new north end zone complex really does make it louder. I'll just say that. And by the way, I did take a video, video out on social media, all my places, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, the whole deal. I put out a video recently of all the progress on the north end zone. Some impressive stuff happening. They've already got glass on the outside. Really looks completely different in just really a couple weeks' time or so since the last Missouri home game. But again, more on this schedule here. Of course, Ole Miss, back to this big 5 game, this big group of 5 games here, if you will. Ole Miss, of course, going to have a new coach as well as, and likely a very different looking roster, by the way, as well, with Lane Kiffin, of course, making his way to LSU. Now, the bad news for Missouri, of course, now you're catching Texas in year 2 of Arch Manning. You've got to think he's going to be improved in year 2 as a starter. Again, I already said Georgia is Georgia, especially Athens. Nobody really wins down there except for Missouri in 2013. Also, Marcel Reed almost certainly back for another year at Texas A&M. John Mateer at Oklahoma, their quarterback, likely back for another season as well. But is that actually a good thing? Well, you tell me. I got to imagine a healthy John Mateer in 2026 is going to look like a different player, assuming he does stay healthy. Another note, obviously, by the way, I previously mentioned Arkansas is a Halloween game this season as opposed to the usual Black Friday or Black Friday Saturday game, if you will, on that weekend. It's been that for a decade plus now. Well, now it's the Sooners. Sans the peace pipe, by the way. That'll be the ultimate game, the final game of the Missouri regular season. And I imagine that'll probably be the trend here for at least this 4-year cycle of scheduling here in the SEC. This 4-year run, it looks like they're going to go with, of 9-game schedules. And, well, we already know the opponents for the future. We obviously know exactly what order they're coming in for 2026. And another interesting note, by the way, if you want to compare Missouri's rivalry with Arkansas to its rivalry with Oklahoma, well, believe it or not, a smaller sample of games to be sure, but actually Missouri has a better win percentage against Oklahoma all time than Arkansas does against Missouri. So while obviously the Sooners have had the big advantage over the year, man, that Missouri-Arkansas series has been pretty non-competitive for the most part. Hey, some close victories by Missouri to be sure, but still, that is dominance. So you can understand why the SEC maybe wanted to change it up a little bit. And Missouri basketball with another win last night, 88-77 over Alabama State. Tigers got off to a fast start, 29-12 was the lead, but actually lost the second half of that ball game. So a lot of people were discouraged. You know what? I think I was quite a bit less discouraged than a lot of Missouri basketball fans last night about that result, and I'll explain why coming up here in a little bit. First, though, I do want to tell you about Rougiette, and let's talk about something that most men don't bring up, but absolutely should. That's stress from work, money, life. It doesn't just switch off at night, and when it shows up at the worst possible time, well, Rougiette Ready is designed to help you take back control. And of course, Rougiette Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Because let's face it, often it's not just a physical thing, it can be a mental thing as well. And it's easy to understand why more than 150,000 men have already made the switch. So if you've been thinking about taking the next step, well, now's the time. Head to Rougiette.com/LockedOnCollege. That is RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rougiette Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. And NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's why live betting with FanDuel is so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you are reacting to it. And with FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. For example, hey, did you hear Brady Cook is going to be starting for the New York Jets this week at Jacksonville? The Jets, rather hefty 13.5-point underdog in Jacksonville. Can't say I'm dying to take that one either way, but maybe watch the game, see how Brady's doing. If you feel like he's settled in nicely, maybe you live bet it. That's part of the fun with FanDuel. So you want to be right in the middle of the action all season long. Visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets. It is FanDuel. The game moves fast, and so can you. So like I said, Missouri led by 17 points early in this basketball game against Alabama State. Actually lost the second half, ended up winning the basketball game by 8 points. And obviously that's not the result you want to see. And in fact, Ken Pom actually absolutely hated the result, tumbling Missouri 10 spots nationally in the rankings. I didn't hate the result as much simply because I've reset my expectations. I got to be honest with you. Missouri was 29th headed into the Notre Dame game. Well, we're 55th now in Ken Pom. That is a long way to fall in 3 games, but I think it's deserved, quite honestly. I think that backs up exactly what I've seen with my eyes. A team that looked like it could score with among the best teams in the country, at least against really weak competition, was exposed a little bit against Notre Dame and Kansas, without a doubt. And if you look at Illinois, by the way, Missouri's next game is bragging rights. The Fighting Illini, the second best rated team left on the schedule. So the Tigers could really use a victory here. It's going to be a tough one. There is no doubt about that. By the way, the best team ranked, at least at the moment, left on Missouri's schedule, would you believe the Vanderbilt Commodores are 8th in the country, at least according to Ken Pom? So Vanderbilt, not only on the cusp of the college football playoff, Diego Pavia might win the Heisman, and they've got a really good basketball team too. What the heck is going on in this NIL world and transfer portal land we have found ourselves in? But as I was obviously alluding to there, I think it's fair to question Dennis Gates's scheduling philosophy at this point. If you look at, again, love using Ken Pom, I'm going to reference him once again, his non-conference strength of schedule. Hey, quick trivia question for you kids. Let's see if you've been paying attention to Locked On Mizzou, all you everydayers out there. How many Division I college basketball teams are there this season? I'll give you a hint. It's the same amount of days that there are in this year, 365. Well, this year, Missouri's non-conference strength of schedule is 361. That includes having Kansas in there, by the way. Now, previous years, 355. The 0-18 year, 233. That's actually the best non-conference schedule Missouri's had by quite a ways, and 308th in Dennis Gates' first season. So 3 out of 4 seasons, 300 or worse in the country in terms of non-conference scheduling. That's the type of non-conference schedule you expect one of the absolute worst teams in Division I basketball to have. Or at the very least, I would say, hey, again, sort of like I said, Dennis Gates' defensive philosophy of, as I describe it, junking the game up, trying to speed the game up, a lot of traps, a lot of reaches, a lot of steals, a lot of overhelping at times, basically trying to get a whole bunch of turnovers at the expense of, well, everything else. To me, that made a lot of sense. Dennis Gates' first season when we had Noah Carter as your center, for instance, when he's 6'6", I would say, something like that. So that in that situation, it did make sense. A very small team on height was that particular club. But for every subsequent season, including seasons that Dennis Gates and his staff thought that their team was going to be good, why are we being this, I don't know, for lack of a better term, cowardly with scheduling? again, I could understand it. Your first year, you're trying to establish something. You're trying to establish your program. You're the new guy on campus. Quite literally, I would understand it. But by year 4, not only has the scheduling philosophy not changed, it's actually a little bit worse this season, if anything. So I wonder how much of that, especially that just seems like the overall philosophy, but boy, just in general, not a lot of confidence in this squad this season. And the reason it's fair to by the way, if you're wondering why is he criticizing Dennis Gates and not the athletic department? Well, because unlike football, non-conference schedules in basketball are basically, for the most part, set the previous off season. Now, there are exceptions to that. Of course, the bragging rights game, obviously, hey, there's a long-term contract there. The Kansas-Missouri rivalry, same type of deal there. There's some long-term type of series that are signed. But when it comes to playing teams like Howard and Alabama State and the various other teams in the 200s and 300s that Missouri's played so far, well, that was completely up to Dennis Gates. And I'm not saying you can't play any of those teams, but compared to the rest of the SEC, compared to peer type of power conference teams, I just don't see a lot of teams doing this. And the reality is, even if you don't compare it, regardless of comparing it to everybody else, I think it's pretty obvious that this non-conference scheduling, each of the 2 seasons that Dennis Gates' squad has made an NCAA tournament, I think Missouri's been disappointed with its seeding. Well, I think that's a direct reflection of the weak non-conference scheduling. Despite what Missouri was able to do in the SEC, clearly the NCAA tournament committee dinged the Tigers for their weak schedule. And you know what? If the Tigers end up making it this season, or obviously if they're right on the bubble, whatever it might be, if they just end up not making it, well, I think you can point directly to this weak non-conference schedule as the reason why. I think at this point, especially going into year 5 for Gates, Jason Crow's going to be in the fold next season. It's time to up the difficulty a little bit to at least get into the top 100 in terms of non-conference scheduling. I really don't think that's too much to ask. And also, I think it would really benefit his team in the short and long runs. And after much pleading from this podcaster, well, Dennis Gates finally changed up his starting 5. And while it wasn't the exact change that I would have wanted, I thought the change that he did make certainly made a difference for Missouri. And by the way, the reason I wasn't quite as discouraged, not only because I reset my expectations, but also because I thought Missouri leaned into what it needs to be for the end of this season. So let's talk a little more Missouri basketball. And yes, also that Brady Cook start coming up this weekend. But also, hey, you last-second gift buyers, get on it. Well, I've got you covered. It's called Aura Frames. It's a gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap. It is a way to share memories, because Aura isn't just an average picture frame. Here's the best part to me. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when your recipient plugs it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. So if you want to get a digital frame for, say, a grandparent or somebody who just isn't that technologically savvy, well, this is going to take all of that hassle out for them. Instead of giving them a homework assignment, you've given them a fabulous gift. And for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter by using promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That is auraframes.com, promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. And thanks for making Locked On Mizzou your first listen of the day. And thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a notch and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today. And get Locked On Mizzou with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonmizzou.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. And by the way, if you're a Spotify user, if my show is part of your Spotify Wrapped, take a screenshot of that. Then tag at Locked On Podcasts on anywhere on social media, and they'll send you a code for a free month of the Everydayer Club. But yes, Missouri did change up its starting lineup yesterday. Finally, I would say. I'd been begging for a while. And while I think I would have even taken Sean Phillips out of the starting lineup as well. As I've said many times for you everydayers, I don't think he and Mark Mitchell are very compatible offensively, but simply getting Jacob Cruz into the starting lineup, getting another shooter in, a more perimeter-oriented player instead of Javon Porter, I thought just made a difference. And indeed, Missouri got off to a much faster start offensively, albeit against obviously weaker competition than it had in the previous two ball games for sure. And speaking of Javon Porter, by the way, he didn't just not start, he barely played. In fact, played just 1 minute in the ball game. Of course, box score, Missouri played essentially 8 guys. Trent Burns and Nicholas Randall got DNP coaches' decisions, and of course Jaden Stone and Trent Pierce are out injured. Pierce, who the heck knows when he's coming back? Missouri said that they just simply, he hasn't progressed yet. So your guess is as good as mine there. As for Jaden Stone, he should be back sooner rather than later, at least based on the original timetable. And generally speaking, a hand injury like Stone has, they generally have a pretty good idea of timetables there. So I would expect him back. Maybe for bragging rights, I would say early SEC play at the very least for Stone. So certainly based on how he started the season, he should be a real boon for the Missouri Tigers. And obviously, especially Stone should be a boon for the Missouri offense. And the reason I didn't hate last night's game as much as maybe other people did was because I thought Missouri leaned into its offense more. And indeed, they did make some adjustments with the starting lineup, of course. And also, I thought defensively, I thought Missouri did some more full court pressure. And I would really like to just see a decent amount of token pressure, especially from Missouri defensively, just to wind a few seconds off of the shot clock, quite simply. Again, I'm not even worried about turning the ball over in the half court. Hey, if Anthony Robinson and T.O. Barrett are able to do that on occasion, fantastic. What I'm mostly worried about here is taking a few precious seconds off of the shot clock to help what is a Missouri defense that needs a lot of help in the half court. So to me, especially when T.O. Barrett is on the court, just about any time Missouri scores a basket, he should be picking up the opposition's primary ball handler full court every single time. Same thing with Sebastian Mack, really. I think he could be quite good in that role as well. Maybe even a little bit of Honor Boateng, too. And obviously Anthony Robinson can be good in that role, too. I'm a little bit more hesitant to have him do it as much, despite that he's capable of it, simply because, well, for a couple reasons. Number one, he's got a big offensive load and minutes load, much bigger than those other guys that I just talked about. But also, you want to keep him out of foul trouble as well, and maybe having him pick up full court frequently is not the best way to do that. So those are my thoughts on Missouri basketball. I do want to close out by talking about Brady Cook a little bit, who obviously I'm excited for. It's official now. Adam Schefter put it out there. The Jets are going to start Brady Cook. Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields are both ruled out for the game. Jets head coach Aaron Glenn says, quote, "I have all the confidence in the world in Brady. That's something I've stated from the beginning. He'll be a good player in this league, and he'll have his opportunity again this week. He's been studying his butt off for this moment." And Cook himself said, "I think nerves are part of the game. I've been nervous before any football game I've ever played. I'm excited. It's important. This is everything I've ever done. There's a level of importance there that's going to create nerves. But whenever I drag out on the field and take that first snap, it's gone. It's not there. You're focused because you have no other choice. You really don't. So, hey, Brady Cook, I love hearing the confidence from Aaron Glenn. Brady Cook, we'll see how it goes. Frankly, I'm terrified because he's a New York Jet, and this is not a very good New York Jets team. I'm obviously rooting for Brady, and I'll just say that confidence that Aaron Glenn is showing there in Brady, I think Brady is just the type of human being that brings out that type of confidence in people. He's always struck me as just a very quietly a confident young man, and I'll be rooting for him real hard on Sunday against the Jaguars, obviously. But hey, thanks as always for making Locked On Mizzou your first listen today. Once again, hey, check out the Everydayer Club. If you're a Spotify listener, take a screenshot of your Spotify Wrapped. Show Locked On Mizzou there. They'll give you a free month. Again, just tag at Locked On Podcasts. You'll figure it out, I promise. You're tech savvy, or send me a DM. I'll help you figure it out if you're confused, I promise. For you everydayers, I'll do anything for you. But hey, until next time, as always, I am John Miller, and thanks for listening to Locked On Mizzou.